So my name's Femi Koleoso. I'm the drummer and band leader for Ezra Collective. I have a show in Minnesota, cafe. Oh no, I've forgotten the name of the cafe. But I'm playing in a cafe tonight with our band. We're on our North American tour, and yeah, it's rocking to be here. Okay. Oh, is this a gift? I don't. I've got a big record collection, and I don't have this record, so I'm very, very, very happy for this. And he's wearing Jordan 4s in the picture, and I'm wearing Jordan 4s right now. So it was meant to be. So thank you, thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. You know what? Robert Glasper has played a big part in my musical life because his record Double Booked and Canvas were the first records that I heard, which were like, this is jazz, but it sounds like it was made today. Previous to that kind of vibe, I was listening to like a lot of Jazz Messengers, a lot of Max Roach, a lot of all of those kinds of things. So he kind of flipped that for me. And those trio records blew my mind. And then one of the first ever concerts I went to, my dad took me to Ronnie Scott's to see the Robert Glasper trio with Derek Hodge on bass and Chris Dave on drums. And I remember we had the like cheapest seats in the house. It was the restricted viewing seats. So I had to sit on my dad's lap because I had a pillow right in front of me. So I had to sit on his lap all night. And I'm 16, so I'm like feeling like a big man. And now I'm sitting on my dad's lap watching Chris Dave and Robert Glasper go at it. And I remember the last moment of the gig, they were like, what's the last song you want us to play? And I was screaming out like, oh, play Jelly's Dabina, that's my favourite song, play Jelly. And then they played it, yeah, mind blown. And then fast forward to Black Radio 1 coming out. And that was when it was like, that blew my mind. A Sade cover, but it sounded like jazz. Afro Blue cover, but it was Erykah Badu. That really definitely shaped how I saw music and composed it. So he's had a big effect on me, actually. I'm a big fan of his. I met him several times, you know. Every time he'd come to Ronnie Scott's in London, I would watch him play. And then most recently, he did a show in London, and I had the opportunity to be backstage with him, and we ended up talking, and that's when I found out he was a big Gorillaz fan, and that's the other band I play in, so we ended up speaking a lot about that. But yeah, I'm a fan of his. I don't think he'd remember meeting me, but I definitely remember meeting him. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I guess for me, so I can only speak on behalf of me because we all have slightly different journeys within faith, within the band. But for me, I'm very much a God first person. And it's like, I feel like God blessed me with the ability to play music, to essentially articulate my love for him, but then also to spread that goodness and vibe around the world wherever I'm playing. So very much it's my first point of call. First thing I'll do in the morning is pray and submit that to Jesus Christ. And so for me, that's what my faith means. And yeah, and it's a wonderful blessing being able to share that with people and just give a different type of perspective on Christianity. Like, yeah, I'm a God first Christian, but this ain't Christian music necessarily. It's just the songs that I'm writing to vibe with, and you can kind of get from it what you wish. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my vibe. Oh man, the biggest difference that could be. Do you know what I would actually say? The size of America in comparison to the UK is a lot of what causes the confusion between the two. For example, in the UK, we always think Americans don't know anything about geography because you ask them, like, what's the capital city of Italy? And they would say Africa, something like that. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but then when you're in America and you realize knowing what is the East Coast and the West Coast and knowing what is the state capital of this place and blah, is equivalent geography knowledge of knowing all the capitals in Europe because it's so big. I think also politically, so many things in the UK, we just don't understand how that can be. That doesn't make any sense. But I think when you're in America and you realize the difference between New York and LA is almost the same geographical difference between London and Berlin. It's even bigger. So then when you think of it like that, then it makes sense why the rules can be so odd and weird. And so, yeah, the size is a big thing. It always blows my mind. Like yesterday, I caught a flight from, we were in Oakland to Minnesota. That was a 4.5 hour flight. You can't fly 4.5 hours and still be in Europe. Like, you would leave by that point. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, that is mind blowing for us Brits. So yeah, that's the biggest difference for me. I think like anything, one of the things about the UK I wish more people knew about and didn't assume, it's just the levels of diversity within the UK, like how different even North and South London can be. Because essentially you're represented by the most famous of you. That's how it works for everyone, you know. So in the same way, Kim Kardashian is not necessarily the best representation of an American in the whole world, nor is Donald Trump, Jay-Z, Beyonce, or Kanye West. But that's how people perceive Americans a lot of the time. I feel like the same thing happens to Brits. They think of maybe the Queen, Adele, David Beckham, and it's like there's so many nuances. The other day I was in somewhere and I was talking to someone here in America, and they were saying to me like, oh my gosh, you sound exactly like Top Boy. You look like Top Boy. And it was like a kind of, in a way, it was a positive moment, because that was a moment where a type of UK that I'm from is represented here in the USA. I just wish for that to be more so you could see more diversity of what we're like. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it was just insane. Like, I had all the Gorillaz magazines. I used to collect all of that stuff. Russell Hobbs was my hero until I realized he wasn't real. And then one day you get an email being like, do you want to be Russell Hobbs? And that was mind-blowing, you know? And then I'll never forget my first real show with Gorillaz was at the O2 Arena in London. And I just remembered sat on stage with 2 sticks in my hand thinking, how am I about to be the crash cymbal on Clint Eastwood? Like, how is that my job now? Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's a massive blessing. It's one of those things where it kind of lays testament to, if you work hard and you have a dream, it can come through. Sometimes it feels like them moments aren't real, but it was real for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Favorite band, and then I'm a part of it. So, yeah, very, very special. Goku that's just like as good as it gets, really. Do you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't get away with dressing like him, but I like to embody Super Saiyan energy when I'm playing the drums. So definitely Goku. Goku or SpongeBob. You see, SpongeBob kind of, I feel like he'll come on the intellectual vibe with it. Do you know what I'm saying? He would think about things. I can see Goku just going Super Saiyan and not thinking it through. But then I think SpongeBob would be winning for a bit, but then he would go to like Super Saiyan 2 or 3 and then it would be over. So I still think Goku would reign supreme, but it wouldn't be it wouldn't be quick. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure later on tonight I'll probably have a dream that will kind of reference that situation, and I'll let you know who wins. Wow. It definitely has pros and cons, you know. You can kind of call mum as a team, and we're both represented. So right now I'm doing an interview, I'm quite busy. If he was to FaceTime mum right now, it kind of counts as we've both been in contact with home. So that's a big pro. One of the cons, though, is if you're a bit fragile and vulnerable, he knows exactly how to wind me up. So then that's kind of like a con. You've always got someone that knows exactly the button to push. But generally speaking, like, it's amazing. It's a wonderful thing that there's definitely a locked-in synergy with someone that you learn an instrument with. You know, when I'd barely be able to put 2 notes together on the drum kit, he couldn't put 2 notes together on the bass guitar. So to both be at a place where we're writing and playing our own music to lots of different people is definitely a blessing. That's a really good question. I think that essentially when you've got a leader figure that can help the process of democracy, because essentially a lot of the things come down to it's my call. I just have to consciously make the decision to make calls based on what you think would be best for everyone. So I'm always trying to tap into, Femi, is this about you? Or is this about everything, everyone? And if it's ever feeling like it's about me, that's when you're not leading the band. But if you are thinking about everyone, and you come to those conclusions and decisions, and then you make some mistakes and you just be like, all right, sorry, got it wrong. And when you get it right, no one says anything, but you just sit there quietly knowing, yeah, I've got that right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh man. Well, so my parents I'm Nigerian, and the CD that was in the car all the time would have been Fela Kuti records. So that was the taste of music I grew up on. The first music I ever loved was Fela Kuti's records. As I got more into the drums, I naturally wanted to know who was the drummer behind these songs that were my favourites, and that's when I found out about Uncle Tony's music. So yeah, it was that kind of direction, from Dad through to Google, and then up came Uncle Tony. So he ended up becoming my drum teacher, man. Like, I live in London, but I would get like the mega bus to Paris where he lived and have drum lessons with him. And he very much became Uncle Tony. It was like, you know, sometimes he was grumpy, sometimes he was in a vibe. It was very much that kind of whatever the day it was, that was the vibe. But he always looked out for me. Every time we were at a festival on the same billing, he would always ask, what time is Femi playing? Every time I was in London, someone would message me like, oh, Uncle Tony's in London, he would like to see you. It was one of those vibes. So yeah, very, very close to my heart. I met Jorja. I was going to Trinity School of Music, jazz school in London, which is actually where Fela Kuti studied. And so that's where I was studying at university. And there was a piano player that was my boy there, and he just one day said to me like, yo, I'm playing keys for this girl. She's an amazing singer. She needs a band. Would you be up for playing the drums with her? I was just kind of like, yeah, man, send me a link to her music. She only had one tune at that point, and I got a SoundCloud link, and it was Blue Lights. And I remember listening to it being like, this is phenomenal in every way. And then one day got booked in for our first rehearsal, and I met her. And then we were just like best mates ever since then, literally. So yeah, man, yeah. She's got a very special place in my heart. Oh man, she's gifted. She's really, really special. It's like one of my favorite ever Jorja moments was when we wrote Reason in Disguise with Ezra Collective. And she does this thing like, I started playing a drum beat and TJ dropped down like a bass line, and she'll just kind of be vibing. She'll just be vibing, nodding her head like that, and then start humming like, And you can't really make out much of it. And it just kind of like, she's humming, and she'll be like, yeah, I've got it. And then bang, song. Do you know what I'm saying, fam? Like, she's just such a brilliant songwriter, and she's got a really uniquely gifted approach to lyrics where it's like, it's not that bait and obvious what she's saying and how she's trying to come about it, but the more you kind of live with the tune, the more it shouts out at you. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm a big fan of Jay, big fan of Jorja. I started DJing when it's the maddest intro to it. I never even realised it was DJing, but I used to play Halo on Xbox Live, like super addicted to it. But I used to, for my clan, I would just be the person selecting tunes. So I'd have my headset next to my computer and I'd just be playing songs on YouTube, and everyone be like, yeah, let Femi select the tunes while we're like trying to kill off all of these other people, whatever, do you know what I'm saying? And that was my introduction to it. And then I just I fell in love with selecting music. I mean, some DJs are like in love with the beat matching element of it. I just love being to people like, I bet you haven't heard this before, and you play it, do you know what I'm saying? And that feeling just gave me such a buzz. I ended up being really desperate for Ezra Collective to get played on the radio in the UK, but no one would play our music. So I got a job at a radio station just so I could play Ezra Collective tunes. And then I ended up just DJing every week on the radio station. And that's kind of how I fell in love with it. And then, of course, there's so many drummers who have done the DJ crossover. Even like Anderson .Paak was DJing at South by Southwest the other night. You've of course got Questlove, who's an iconic DJ, and they're some of the people that like really inspire me. So yeah, I just love playing music. Halo 3 that's kind of the pinnacle of gaming. That's as good as it gets. Do you know what I'm saying? There'll be a documentary one day on what that did to the world, and I hope they feature me in it. Oh, most annoying thing DJs do. You know what? It's a bit of a personal pet hate. I don't like it when DJs wheel a song too quickly. Like when they play a song and everyone's like, oh snap, this is my tune, and then it's gone. And I appreciate how technically gifted you have to be to do that. I couldn't do that if I even wanted to. But I just like letting songs breathe. Like the intro was written for a reason, and then the like chorus, and then the bridge. I like hearing songs in full. Maybe not the whole thing, it's a Fela Kuti 15-minute tune, but at least a good part of it. Do you know what I'm saying? I guess what's next for Ezra Collective, we finish this North American run, and that will be touring done for this side of the year. And I guess I'm looking forward to being back home, back in the studio, and try and make some more songs for DJs to play. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, what is important to me is being honest in every way, in how you feel. And, you know, if you feel good, be honest about that. If you don't feel too good, be honest about that. It's far more mentally healthy to be honest like that. Be honest in what you like. When you go on stage, don't just play what you think people will like. Play what you're actually in love with, because you end up sounding better. Be honest with your influences. If you really, really love Slipknot and you really, really love Jay Dilla, that is beautiful. Be honest with that in your music and mix them together. I think in everything, be honest, because it ends up making life easier and more simple. That's important to me.